Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk with Sharon. On this episode, we have California Police Officer Trey Moseley. We're going to discuss his life, and he's going to school us on the law, give us his view on real life situations. How you doing today, Mr. Trey?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time out from your busy day, to come and talk to us. So to
Yeah,
the
of course.
first, no problem. So the first question I'm going to ask you, at what age were you when you decided you wanted to become a police officer?
Shit, I was 26, I think. Yeah, it
26.
wasn't that long ago because I'm only 28. I'm only 28 now. Yeah, I had no intentions on doing this at first. It was just an audible career for me. So, yeah, it wasn't that long ago. I was either 26 or 25, something like that.
So tell me kind of like what changed your mind in becoming, a police officer.
What changed my mind was well, I mean, for one, what I really wanted to do in life wasn't going as planned, and I started looking for some audible careers. And the first two things that came to mind was, well, the first thing that came to mind was a firefighter. And then normally when someone thinks about being a firefighter, they kind of pair that with being a police officer. Firefighter was kind of what I was leaning towards. And then, but I had a friend that was kind of talking me into doing both. I'm not doing both. He's trying to talk me into being a police officer. So I just applied pretty much his persuasion, I guess. I applied. And then I just kind of left up the guy like, yo, if it works out, cool. If it don't, then it's still cool. And then
I'm
it seemed like the police route was just making more sense, and that's why I stuck with that one. And then I think, kind of looking at it now, I think I bring a little more value to the police world than I do being a firefighter. It's more so what once I made that decision to do it, what kept me with that, what kept me pleased with that decision,
right.
and I think it's because there was a lot of I got in during George Floyd, so the that was like the Rodney King of my era. I'm sure like
Yeah.
you were around when Rodney King happened. I was a baby, so
Yeah.
I didn't really I mean not I didn't get to, but I didn't have the opportunity to experience that. So I feel like George Floyd was like the Rodney King of my era, and I think that experience alone was like, damn, I'm like, dude, I'm kind of tired of this. That was my first thought. I'm like, man, I'm tired of this. It's like if I just do this, then maybe I can change things
Yeah.
and make things be differently and make our people view police different. So that was like kind of my motivation for doing it after I made it. I mean, for continue
Yeah.
on and being okay with my decision.
Okay. So, why do you think there is such a disconnect, like when it comes to Black community and law enforcement?
So in the beginning, so I'm not gonna discredit people's opinion because the feelings that our people have are valid, bro. Like I didn't mean to call you bro. I'm sorry, but the feelings that we have as Black people are valid. Meaning the thought of like police being corrupt and that they always target Black people, like because that was a thing at one point in time, like
Right.
90s, 80s, and it's even safe to say early 2000s. So because and I also thought that way before I became a
Right.
police officer. And then once I was going through the academy, I was like, damn, this is so much different than what I thought. There's so many rules that police got to do. It seems like it's so sensitive to where
Right.
like you can get fired easily.
Oh, wow.
And I just feel like, oh yeah, cops can get, especially in liberal states, you can get fired a lot easier compared to like a
Wow.
Texas or a Florida. Some of that stuff you do in California, it's gonna get you fired quickly. But um, to continue on with that part, I just feel like the uh our people just to me at this point in time in current day modern day I feel like policing has changed and now it's just becoming a lack of education at this point. It's not necessarily that these
True.
things that people are saying is true. It's some of it is true, but it
Yeah.
happens on a very rare occasion. But you know, so it's just a very rare occasion, and I think people need to understand that this is still a field of humans, and people are going to make mistakes, and
Yeah.
as long as those mistakes are at a minimal level, that's what people can be. They have to be kind of satisfied with that. And me being on this side of the fence now, experiencing being Black, in the world, I experienced that, and now I experience being a police officer. And it's like people need to trust what I'm saying, dude. Like it's changed. It's not the same anymore.
Yeah,
And now it's becoming a thing of it's the disconnect has to do with education.
exactly. Okay. And also, in your opinion, is there anything that law enforcement or the Black community can do that may help the two connect better?
Yeah, so I'll start with law enforcement first. Law enforcement, we can do a little bit better job of explaining what we're doing. There's times where we can't. Like it's like, dude, we're not. It's not time for talking right now. We're coming here to do a job. Once this whatever we came to do, once that's done, we'll do whatever amount of explaining you want. But we're
Right.
not gonna argue. At certain times, we're not gonna argue with you. Period. On the streets, we're not gonna argue with you. We're not gonna go back and forth. And if there's not time to explain, we're not gonna explain. It's gonna start moving quickly, whether you want to or not. But as law enforcement, we can do a better job to explain stuff because people don't always know what's going on in that. And some people, if you just explain to them like, "Hey, dude, this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it," a lot of the time, even though they're upset, sometimes people will be like, "All right, whatever. I respect that. I'll fall back and I'll stop doing
Right.
whatever I'm doing." So that's where law enforcement can do better. And
Right.
I try to pride myself on doing that. And sometimes, dude, this the routines of the job make you get away from that. Like you kind of get tired of doing it, or you keep explaining yourself, saying the same thing over and over again. You just kind of get tired of it. But I try to keep myself in that civilian mindset as best as I can, and I try to explain stuff, especially when I get a vibe that you're willing to listen. Then I'll take some time out to explain what I'm doing to you once I'm done doing it.
Okay.
Um, and then as civilians, the main thing is trying to understand law. There's a lot of the time where people want us to do stuff that I'm like, dude, you're asking me to do something that I literally cannot do. And if I do this, I'll be losing my job within by the end of my shift. I'll lose my job if I do what you're asking me to do, or you're
Right.
gonna put me in a position where I'm gonna be facing criminal charges. And it's like people ask us to do certain stuff because they have the assumption that we're above everybody and that we're above everything and we can do whatever we want. And it's like, nah, dude, like we got a lot of rules to follow,
Right.
and people not understanding those rules um is where the disconnect is, especially with some of these videos that you see online. It's like, yeah, you guys are upset, but you also don't know the law because
Yeah.
some of that stuff may not have been it may look bad, but it may not be illegal. So if it's not illegal, what are you really upset at? So um
That's
I
true.
think the main thing with the Black community right now is the biggest thing is education, education, education. I can't stress that enough. And if the more we educate our people, it's gonna change. You'll see the relationship change overnight. You got some people that are just like you can't help them; they just gonna believe what they want to believe. But
Be stuck in their
I would
ways.
say like, yeah, for sure. And the a reasonable Black person, 100% through education, we can bridge this gap. But without the education piece, this thing will stay the same. It will be a revolving door, and it's never going to get better. So, well, I don't want to say it's never going to get better. Law enforcement will keep giving changes to try to show to people that law enforcement is trying to make changes, but it's going to come to a point where it's like, yo, we've done all we can do now. Not going to keep giving up our powers as police officers because at the end of the day, the job still has to be done, and you can't take away all the power that we have because
Right.
the job won't get done how it needs to be done. So
Exactly. Okay. So, why is it we as community don't give the same energy when we kill each other every day that we give with a white officer kills one of us?
that's the thing that blows me, right? Me
Right.
and one of my boys, he's a police officer too. We grew up together though. And it's like every time something like that happens, we're like, dude, people think we're tripping, but it's like, nah, I don't think we're tripping, bro. It's people don't realize that, hey, if this was not, let's say with the Sandra, I don't want to say her last name wrong, Sandra,
Yeah,
the recent shooting that just happened in
yeah,
Illinois,
yeah. Actually, we're gonna talk about
Macy, right?
her.
Macy, that's her last name.
Yeah, Sonya Massey. That's correct.
Sonya Massey, yeah. So with her specifically, you maybe that's a black officer, or she turns into, and you make her a white lady, this thing doesn't blow out of proportion. But I think media knows that racism sells, and whenever there's an opportunity to do that, I think us as black people are always going to jump on that because that is our power as black people. Our power is the racism card.
Oh yeah.
We fought that, we carry that everywhere we go, and rightfully so. It should be like that, dude, because we never got any sort of like uh we didn't get any benefit from that, like from slavery. We never got like
Right.
Native Americans, they get a check, every routine they get a check for just for what they experience. It's like we don't get any of that. We
No.
don't have anything that benefits for us from those hard times. So the only benefit we have is the race card, unfortunately.
Right.
So I think that black people know that, and we run with that. And if we don't know it, we just unintentionally have knowledge of it. So
Yeah, especially with these camera phones and things now, it's more easier to catch
yeah,
something on camera and post it, and then people make it their own
hmm
story of what they assume happened. So, um,
exactly, that happens a lot.
yeah, that does. So,
But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think police officers have that in the back of their mind, like there's cameras everywhere,
yeah,
and it makes us kind of be on our P's and Q's. So
yeah,
at least for me, it does that.
okay. And so, what backlash did you receive from your friends when they found out you became a police officer, and did you lose any friends because of it?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I think some of the homies was like, not really feeling my decision.
Right,
And but I mean, people that are close to me, they're close to me. Like a lot of them kind of accepted it. It's just in the beginning, like the thought of doing it, they're like, "Damn, you want to do that? Like, what makes you want to do that?" And that's kind of what it was, just questioning it. But then once I started doing it, it was all good. Like I didn't lose any friends at all. It was
right,
okay. But then when I started to voice my opinion on some of the stuff that I experience or that I see, when I started to get on Instagram about like doing stuff like this, that's when I started losing friends because I think that people, the moment I say words that that align with people's hate for police, the moment
mhm,
I say something or have an idea that kind of goes with that,
right,
then I get automatically put in that light, and it started to make people want to detach from me. And I think it was people having a hard time seeing the difference between the badge and like who Trey actually is. And
thank you.
people were, you know me for 10, 12, 15 years, and you're gonna remove all the respect that you've earned, that you gained from me, all the respect I've earned, the way I've kept my reputation clean. You're letting all those memories completely detach from me, all because you got that much hate for police. When more so, it should have been like, damn, well, Trey has never really been like a guy that act weird towards me, or he kept his reputation clean with me. Maybe what he's saying could be true. Let me give him a chance to hear him out. It wasn't like that. It was a lot of people, not a lot, but it was a few that were just like, nah, I don't fool with him no more because he's one of them basically. And it's like, nah, dude, it's not that I'm one of them. I just learned more than you. I learned about the law more than you, so that forced my mind to change on certain things. So.
Right, okay. How do you feel about the no snitching code in our community?
Oh shit. I think I mean, so being someone that kind of, I didn't grow up in the streets, but like I was raised by people with the street mentality. So I had the street mentality. That's like the best way to put it. But I don't game bang. I'm not from the streets, nothing like that. But
Yeah,
when you raised by people who are that, you adopt some of that, and there's nothing you can
yeah,
do about it. So like growing up as a kid, like we weren't allowed to tell on each other. Like me and my brother, like if one of us told on each other, then everybody's getting a whooping. Like whoever told, you're part of the whooping
yeah,
too. So uh being on this side of the fence is kind of weird, like kind of talking to people and kind of wanting them to snitch, or trying to get them to give a statement and stuff like that. Um Being on this side is a little weird, but I think it's good. I think it makes police do their job when people don't snitch. It makes us dig deeper into investigating and stuff like that. So I think it's a good counterbalance. But the downside to that is I've seen people literally get in trouble for stuff
Yeah,
because someone else won't tell us what happened. I'm like, dude, hey, bro, if you tell me what happened, dude, like if you're, one of your homies, hey, if you tell me what happened, he doesn't have to go to jail. But if you don't, I can't. If nobody wants to say anything, I have no word to go off of. I have to go off what I see, and from what I see, it looks
right,
like he probably did it. And if it's looking like a strong probably, then bro, unfortunately, your boy has to go to jail. Where if you just tell me what happened,
right.
then we can let this walk. And I've seen it work. There's been times where I've like damn near begged someone to give a statement so I can prevent someone from going to jail. If I'm doing all that, it's because I'm trying to help you. But
Help you, yeah.
normally, if I'm just trying to, yeah, if I'm just trying to give somebody a statement, I kind of come like plain level, equal kill. I'm not trying to sell you a false dream. I'm just like, hey, dude, if you want to tell your part of the story, you can right now. It's up to you. If you don't, then you don't. But it's your call. So, and that's because that's how I was raised. But to me, I feel guilty about trying to convince someone to tell. It's just not in me to do that. But if someone feels inclined to, then by all means, that's up to you too. But
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't think people hate policemen. I just think they hate what they stand for because they know that policemen can lock them up or they can go to jail. So I think they kind of thinking that is hate, but it's not hate. It's not that they hate police officers. They just hate what they think they know about them.
yeah, yeah, and that's what exactly that's the truth. And I feel like some of that can go away through education,
Yeah.
and education would just make people respect it. Like, all right, bro, I don't really like what you got to do, but I respect it. Like, and that's really what it's asking for because at the end of the day, I can't expect someone to like me if I'm coming to like if
Yeah.
I'm taking your mom to jail. Like, and I've done that. Like, you taking somebody's mom to jail, somebody's dad to jail, somebody's son to jail, all in front of them. Like, who
Oh,
I can't expect you to like me after that. But it's like just have enough respect to be like, all right, man, like do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? But just if you just treat whoever you're taking to jail, treat them with respect, and then we'll respect what you got to do. And it is what it is on that. But
right. So, also, do you think that rap music plays a huge part in the crime that goes on in our community, or do you blame the
yeah,
parents 100%? And do you think parents should receive jail time when their child commits a crime that involves gun violence?
um, does rap music play a role? Yes, absolutely. Because and I don't blame the rappers; they're just sharing their story. Like you can't blame a rapper for talking about how they grew up. It's not their fault. So they're just expressing how they grew up. Some
But
people who are nothing like that hear that music and they feel like they can be that. And if they're not that, the music can motivate them to be that. So um, that's how I feel about the music. But I mean, I listen to that kind of stuff, and it didn't do all that to me. So, not really an excuse there. But now, should parents get in trouble for crimes regarding gun violence? I get the idea behind that. Like, I understand why you would say that, but I believe that if a kid wants to do something with the gun, they're gonna do it whether you try to stop them or not. There's so many avenues and ways to get guns that uh, uh, if someone's that motivated, you can't stop them to do it. So I feel like the parent shouldn't be responsible for that.
uh,
But I don't know. I think that maybe with the gun thing, I don't know the answer to that one. That's tough. I don't know because I'm assuming you're talking about like active shooters and stuff like that. I just think
commit a crime
that
like
the world just needs to
robbery,
accept that
yeah, murder, all of those different things.
yeah, there's there's just bad people in the world, and that's I mean that's why we're here for a reason. That's why police are here
Right,
for a reason, and that's just part of it. We can't stop all crime.
right.
We can't stop it all. Like we can't stop it all. We can limit some of it, but we're not going to stop it all. Whole 100% because it's just bad people in this world, and from I think that's one thing I learned being a police officer that if somebody is motivated to do something, there's nothing you can do to stop them from doing whatever they have set in their mind to do. So to answer your question, no, I don't think parents should get in trouble for that. No.
I don't either because a lot of times, I mean, nowadays parents have to be careful because I didn't seen well parents try to tell the kids something nowadays and they got a gun to kill the parents or a plot to kill the parents. So
Yeah, that happens.
it
That happens.
it's just a lot different than when I was growing up because when I was growing up,
Mhm.
we were scared to even to say anything back to our parents. These kids nowadays, like they just
Yeah, it's different now.
they stay out all night. They just do. I mean, like it's just it's ridiculous. And another thing I wanted to
Yeah, I think.
talk about is to address when I don't think that the parents should go to jail, but I do think that gun laws should be changed.
Yeah, so I mean, I probably feel a little bit different the direction you're heading, but I feel like gun laws should be a little bit looser. And the reason why I say that is because from a criminal side, I do think that it would lessen the crime. That's what I think. Because looking at a place like California, having a gun is leverage because the average person don't have a gun here. Like, well, it's well under the average person don't have a gun. So when you have someone that does, you feel a little more empowered compared to everybody else because you have knowledge that everybody else. You can assume it's safe to assume that everyone else doesn't have a gun. Now, in terms of like kids getting access to guns, uh, I feel that I don't know, maybe the process to get one should be a little more difficult, maybe. But then a lot of these kids, they get guns off the streets. Like
Oh, yeah.
they're getting ghost guns. They're getting guns on serial, like stolen guns, guns from other country, guns from different states and stuff like that. So the only way to kind of prevent stuff like that is when someone does get a gun charge by having one illegally, is to heavily punish that. Like if you heavily punish that, it may deter people from doing it. May or may not, but I know that's gonna prevent it'll prevent some people for sure, but some of these do they don't. It's just like killing somebody. Like people know what the outcome of that's gonna be and they still do it. So
Yeah,
you may prevent more people from holding guns if you increase the penalty for it, but even then, I don't know. I feel like the best thing to do to prevent people from doing crime with guns is to allow other people to obtain them a little bit, maybe a little bit easier, or just make it would sound contradictory from what I just said, but make them be a little bit easier to get and issue out guns to the right people. Like just make sure we're doing our due diligence with the background checks and stuff like that. So.
right. Okay. Now, if a black person gets pulled over, what are the best things to
Mhm.
do and what rights do they have?
So, personal opinion. Usually, this every officer is different, so I can only speak for me, and I can confidently say at least 50% of officers handle it like me. So, I would say the main thing is to be. You don't have to be friendly, but just be cordial. Like, yo, if I'm asking you, like sometimes I'll ask people like, if they say I'm going to get some food, I'll be like, oh, where you going? I'm going here. Is that place good? I never had it. Yeah, bro. Okay, what do you normally order? This is how I have conversations sometimes on traffic side. What do you normally order? I order this, and that. I'm like, damn, okay, I'm gonna check that out. Is have you been there? Have you gone there a lot? Yeah, I've been going there since I was a kid. That's just a cordial conversation,
Right,
and it may be like, ah, this guy's cool. Hey, man, here you go. Take your license, man. Go get your food. Have a nice day, right? But if you come out and I'm like, hey, man, where you headed to? I'm going that way. Where's that way? None of your business. All right. Well, I lost hope on having a conversation with you, so I guess I'm just gonna keep it business.
right.
So some people are good with that. Okay, cool. If you're good with that, then good with that. But if having a conversation for me, any person that's had a conversation, dude, I don't think I ever wrote them a ticket. But when people are not trying to do that, which I get it, you don't have to do that, but
Right.
that's just me. When you're being cool with me, you're exposing who you are to me. You're exposing, hey, I'm just a regular dude, bro. I'm not a criminal. I'm not trying to do nothing. I'm not trying to make your job harder.
Right.
If you're showing me that, then I'm gonna trust my ability to read your character.
Okay.
But
Right.
if you don't want to reveal who you are to me, cool. Then I got to keep it business, and I gotta just do what I got to do at that point. And as far as like what rights do we have? Not just black people, but all people. But the rights that we have is for one, like I said, you don't have to answer any questions. Uh, provide your ID. That's one thing that people have misunderstood. And then you have the right to refuse any searches. But if the officer is like telling you to step out, don't fight that. Like just get out. And if you feel like it was done, you were done wrongly. just fight it in court later. Because whether you get slammed on the ground or you don't, you can still fight it in court. So there's no point in going through the
Yeah.
trauma of getting hands put on you. It's absolutely not worth that. Or worst case, getting yourself shot because you're doing something that we're telling you not to do. Like you don't want it to lead that far. So
Right.
if something's done illegally or wrong, the money don't like the money don't change. You can still sue. And
Right.
then you have the right to record. Like you can record if you choose to, but if the officer tells you, "Hey, put your phone down," okay, I'm gonna put my phone down. I'm gonna let it keep recording. Cool, then put it down and let it keep recording. It's going to cause hands. Avoid it. Avoid doing it. If you want to ask for a supervisor, that's fine. Don't try to ask for a supervisor as like a timeout. Like, nah, dude. Like, if they're asking you to get out and they're like, "Hey, dude, if you don't get out, we're gonna pull you out." Asking for a supervisor that time is past. Like you should have asked for a supervisor the moment this was happening. You
Right.
ask for it. If they still say no, all right, whatever, I'm gonna get out this and that. And then you after the fact, you like, hey, I asked for a supervisor, they didn't give me one. This search is illegal. And then you give your reasons why and stuff like that. So that's
Okay.
the main thing. Do comply, comply, comply. But like I said, you don't have to give in to any searches. But if you're still being asked to step out, then just get out.
What are some changes in the Black community you would like to see happen?
I would like to see people instead of saying like a big example. The best way to give you an example is like I see a lot of people that are like so in love with the taser. They're like, oh, you should have used taser. Yeah, they shot at you once, but you should have still used a taser. Dude, instead of assuming what we should and shouldn't do, just ask like, hey, can you tell me what your policy is for using a taser? Okay, once you get that answer, now you decide if a taser should have or should not have been used. Instead
Right.
of saying like, oh, the taser should have been used. What reason do you have for why that should have been used? Like, let's educate ourselves first. So when you see a police officer, if you have an issue with something, hey, tell me what your policy is for use to use your firearm. Tell me what your policy is for being able to pull your gun out. Like, let's ask questions like that first before we start assuming what police should and shouldn't do. And it's just crazy how police is the only field where people tell us how to do our job who are not police
Right.
officers. Like no one's going to the pizza guy like make your pizza, you got to make the pizza this
Right.
way. Like no,
All right.
unless you made pizza before, you're not gonna even know. So stay
Right.
in your lane, bro. Like if you don't know, ask first, educate yourself on what we should and shouldn't do, and then you form your opinion on what should and should not be done based on what the
Yeah.
law says.
Okay.
So that's what we need to improve on. It stems
Exactly.
back to the same thing, education.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, do police officers racially profile?
I've never seen somebody actually racially profile, and I think people tie up profiling with racial profiling because of the similar association that they have.
Right.
Now, racial profile, I think people fail to realize what actual racial profiling is. Racial profiling is profiling specifically based on race. And the example that I give is would if I had to if you put an Aryan Brotherhood gang member, put one of them here and you put Steve Urkel here, and I had to say which one you think has a gun, pretty sure everyone would choose the Aryan Brotherhood person and not Steve Urkel. But if
Exactly.
someone was actually racially profiling, they would choose Steve Urkel because, and why would that justification be? Is because of his race, because he's black. That is, you're specifically doing it based on race if you say Steve Urkel. But if you profile, then the right way, then you would choose the Aryan Brotherhood
Yeah.
gang member based on, multiple things. But so to say, do officers profile?
Mm-hmm.
100%. There's no doubt about that. I've made that very clear. Do some officers profile inaccurately? Yes, that happens too. That does happen.
Okay.
Meaning you have someone who may look like you may have someone that looks like a gang member, but they're really not.
Yeah.
Like, and to take that a step further, someone who didn't grow up around gang members doesn't have a good idea of what one looks like.
Right.
However, some of these cops they work in the hood, and they people fail to realize that they work in the hood and they get a good idea of what a criminal looks like with a gang member. They start to get a good idea of what that identity is,
Yeah.
and then over time they develop that. But in the beginning, you have someone like if you never seen if you didn't grow up around criminals, you don't have a good idea what a criminal looks like. The only thing you have to look, the only idea you have is what fits the movies and shit like that. And somebody like me is gonna fit the bill to what you see in the movies and stuff like that. Like
Right.
I probably fit the average look of a criminal or a gang member, but someone who's been around that can tell quickly, oh, he's not a gang member, he's more of a square. And that's the truth. I am more on the side of a square than I am of a gang member. So
Okay, explain what is the difference between a vehicle search and a vehicle pat down.
okay, so that's a good question. A lot of people don't ask that. And especially a lot of black people don't ask that. So I'm glad you even know the difference for one. But I'm glad you know there's a difference. But a vehicle pat down and a vehicle search, if you're watching them being done, they look
Right.
almost exactly the same.
Oh, wow.
Now, a vehicle search requires they just look very very similar. But a vehicle search is requires probable cause. Like you see alcohol, you see open containers in the vehicle, you see drug uh evidence of drugs in the vehicle, stuff like that. Or you have what's called someone in the car has a fourth waiver that gives you probable cause to search the vehicle. When you have probable cause to search the vehicle, you pretty much can search any part of the vehicle, any compartment, anything like that. When you're doing a vehicle pat down, you only can look in places where a reasonable person would believe that a weapon would be. So if you have an ashtray, but it's closed, the likelihood of a gun or a knife being in there is very, very unlikely. So that we're not going to open that. We're not going to open that compartment, right? But the glove box, yeah, a gun can go in there. The center console, yeah, a gun can go in there. Under the seat, yeah, a gun can go there or a knife can go there. And on the side of the seats and stuff like that. Now, let's say like a regular sedan, you probably don't have access to the trunk, so nah, we're not gonna go in the trunk. A SUV though, you could take a gun and toss it in the back, and it can go to the trunk of an SUV. So yeah, we're gonna search the trunk of an SUV. Um, Anywhere that the average person would agree that a weapon could be. So in the vehicle, it's damn near the whole car, but it's not the whole entire car, but it's almost the whole car, except for like little small compartments where a weapon is unlikely to be at. So
Okay.
that's like the clear distinct difference.
Awesome. Okay. Um, Now can you shoot an intruder that breaks in your home?
That's gonna change from state to state, but I'm gonna say I'm only gonna speak for my state because I don't know every state. So in my state, if there's an intruder and they walk in the house and you have reason to believe that that person is only coming there to cause harm or to commit a felony. They're only there to commit a felony. Why? Is because for one, they would have had to force entry, and if your alarm is going off, that's proven that they
Right.
should not be there. So the average person knows that a alarm, when you force entry to a house and there's an alarm going off, anybody would believe that that person should not be there at this point.
Right.
So that's your first criteria that you need. Now, with that being said, it's also safe to assume that they're there to commit a felony, meaning they're there to steal something or cause harm to somebody. That's your second criteria. Now, if they're not holding any weapons in California, we're not gonna shoot that person. We're just not gonna do that. If
Okay.
they have anything that can cause bodily major injury or death, you're allowed to shoot them. Now, where
Hmm.
it becomes different is if they run out. If they run away or they're no longer presenting as a threat, meaning they're now retreating from whatever violence they were doing. If they're retreating from that, you can no longer shoot or do anything else
Oh,
past what you already did, because that quickly changes the charge from a self defense case to a murder case or assault with a deadly weapon case, anything like that. So you gotta
oh,
be super mindful, especially in a state like California, that when someone is trying to retreat and trying to no longer advance towards you or trying to get away or anything like that, you need to stop whatever you're doing. And even one more thing that's important is doing things within reason, meaning you shoot the person and they fall right in the doorway. If you
oh,
run up there and you start drilling rounds into them or you shoot them in the head, that's considered to me that's considered unreasonable. That's not within reason, because the whole purpose of you What the whole purpose of you shooting them was to stop them from doing what they were doing.
Okay.
But if you go kill them, if they're no longer moving or anything like that, and they drop their weapon and they're done, and you go over and you walk on top of them and you put a bullet in their head, what was the purpose of that? That wasn't within reason in any kind of way, because the goal you were trying to achieve was already done when you shot them the first time. They let the gun go, they fell to the ground, anything like that. But if you shoot once and they're still charging at you, then no, keep doing what you got to do. Take care of business. Once that's done, once that threat is no longer a threat, there's no need to keep putting rounds into them, right?
Right. Okay. Now, the Sonya Massey murder has been the latest tragedy in your opinion. What could or should have happened differently that could have prevented her death?
Okay, so in California, because when I say California, is because we all from San Diego all the way up to Sacramento, we all get trained exactly the same way. Our academies are all held and ran the exact same way. So I'm pretty confident that any police officer in California, and I'm sure other states would have handled it this way too. I'm only can speak confidently for my state
Right.
on how we get trained. Is in that situation, she called in a burglary. We would have checked the perimeter like they did. They did good with that. They checked the perimeter. They assured that nobody was there. That was being an intruder or anything like that. So we would have did the same thing as them in that situation. Now, what we would have did was we would have told her like, "Hey, we don't have any reason to believe there's an intruder here. We checked the outside. Would you like us to check the inside?" If she would have said yes, we'd have checked the inside, did a safety
Yeah.
sweep, and we would have left. But if she would have said no, I don't feel the need for you guys to check the inside. Okay, cool. We're gonna head out. That's how it would have happened from there. That's what all that would have happened in
Right.
California. Now let's take it a step further to being inside the house, right? Let's just say hypothetically we end up inside the house for whatever reason. Now what we would have did was we would have we what we should have done. I don't want to say what we would have did. What we should have done in that situation is they had the counter as a barrier between her and them.
Right.
When you have the perception that someone is mentally unstable, you never can judge what they're going to do next. So with that being said, you want to, if this in that situation, distance is your friend. You want to keep your distance, and when if the moment you perceive that boiling water to be a threat towards you, they should have went. One person had lethal force having the gun out, which is okay. It's okay to have the gun out in that situation, but that should have been accompanied with a less than lethal force, like a taser. I wouldn't say a beanbag because you're not walking into a beanbag and you're not bringing that into the house expecting to use it. You're not expecting it's going to turn into that. So the only thing you have in your belt that can be used in that moment would be a taser or I guess pepper spray. But let's
Right.
just say taser being the best option. So you should have had the gun out and the taser out. But once again, still keeping your distance. Then we should have got on the radio and be like, hey, let's get some more people here because this is turning into like a threatening situation.
Right.
And then you tell her like, hey, dude, put that boiling water down, or you're gonna get tased, right?
Right.
If she would have came around the corner, ran at them with the boiling water, then it is what it is. Like a shooting, that's what would have happened, and people just would have had to been okay with it, because at that point the officers would have did everything they could have did to prevent that from happening. But she brought the violence towards them, and there's nothing they could do.
Right.
But they should have gave it demands for her. Hey, step away from the pot, move to your right and stuff like that. But when she ducked behind the counter, the officer came closer. Reason being, I don't know his actual reason, but I would assume because he couldn't see. And then she popped up and made a motion as if she was going to throw the water. Not sure if it actually came out, but she made the motion as if she was attempting to throw it, and that's what led to the shooting. But I think the mistake was him coming close. His mistake was him talking. He shouldn't have said all that crazy shit to her, like I'm gonna shoot you in your fucking head. Like that wasn't cool. Him saying I'm gonna shoot you, it is what it is. Like I guess, but because that's not illegal. That's why I'm saying it is what it is. That's not illegal for them to say that. I've said that to people like, yo, do what I'm saying or you're gonna get shot. That's not okay. It's okay to say that. So in that situation, having a gun out wasn't really an issue like that. His language was the issue, and then the issue was that they came closer, because him coming closer made him get closer to the threat of the water, which then made him shoot her. So in all, I feel like he created the circumstance to shoot her, whereas if he would have kept his distance, like how we probably would have did in California,
Right.
and like other officers probably would have did along the country, then that shooting would have never happened. So
Right. Okay. All right. Well, Trey, thank you so much for stopping by. And hopefully, somewhere down the road, we can get you back on here because we definitely need young Black kids all over the nation to see someone like you
Of
that
course,
looks like you and them and someone they can identify with. You are definitely
of
a
course.
for our community. And in my opinion, we need more like you. Thank you so much for joining.
You too. Thank you. Thank you for having me.